Hey then, fam. So recently, Gib84, friend of the channel, alum of hashtag support Scottish YouTubers, and a good content creator, recently did this wee video about his 5 years on YouTube as it's been to him thus far. And while I was watching the video, I thought, I think I'll make such a video. I even said so in his comments, and he was like, do it. So I thought, why not? So I'm going to sort of recount and remember with you my last 13 years on YouTube. It's been a while. So yeah, when I think back to how I got going, it's actually kind of strange because I used to be a massive fan of Alpha Omega Sin. I still would be if he was still making content, but that's another video for another day. Um, Anyway, he was part of a podcast called the Hate Bit Podcast, along with Razorfist and another guy whose name I can never remember. And he was the only British guy there. The other two were American. You figure I'd remember the British guy, but there you go. Anyway, and they were like three metalheads who would discuss video game stuff, and it was brilliant. And it was like they did not hold back. If they had an opinion, they'd say it, and it was brilliant, and I loved it. Anyway, one week they put out a call going like, we want another person. And people were to submit videos to sort of like audition. Now, subsequently, nobody was ever taken on. And I don't know how many people entered, but I entered. And of course, I was unsuccessful. Because if I had been successful, then this channel would probably never exist. But after that, I sort of decided to take a little crack at it, and I did for a bit, and it's sort of like I was making a couple of videos, but nothing really stuck. And then one day I was watching another Alpha Megasin video, and by that point I was watching a lot of Ollie 43 and the early days of Richard Tech USA. And I just sort of had this idea of, if these guys can do this, I can do that. Why not? So I started up again, and I decided to, take it semi-seriously. I even went to the bother of like designing a logo and actually calling myself Zemblo, even at the time a channel account was called DWTKSW, which stood for Dancing with Trousers Kutsu 1. Dancing with Trousers because I used to be well known within the Edinburgh metal scene as being the bloke that always dances. In fact, there was even a nightclub that I danced for called DKY. Don't know yet, because every time somebody asked them, what are you going to call the club, they said, we don't know yet. And that became the club name. Scotland. So that's the name I had. I had DWTKSW. That was the channel's name. Now, there had previously been a Zembloke channel owned by me, but that had a very, very, very different focus to what it is now. But luckily, as the gods from YouTube rained their justice upon me, eventually it allowed me to change my name from DWT back to Zembloke. So even though that Zembloke channel had existed, I was able to have the mantle again, and that was brilliant. I could stop calling myself Zembloke by name and call myself by channel title. That was big. But anyway, it's sort of like at the beginning, it's like I didn't even have an intro sequence, and then I decided to make an intro sequence by quite literally printing out the logo on a piece of paper and filming it. Not realising that what I could have possibly better have done was to have just taken a photographic still on my phone and then just pulled that along in the editing software, but I didn't know enough about editing at that point. And I ran with that for yonks and yonks and yonks and yonks, a couple of years even. And that was just it. There was the static logo, and I had that piece of music that so many other YouTubers used from the YouTube studio music library that existed at that point. And I believe that piece of music even transferred into the modern YouTube studio creator tool. And it's a fine piece of music, but it needed changed, and over time there have been a couple of theme tunes that have been attached to the intro sequence. The intro sequence itself, actually, was provided by a gentleman by the name of Cheese Fund, who I believe is still knocking around. And this was when I was in a Twitter group for Scottish gaming YouTubers. And it was a great little place. It's like the streamer Dapper Paper Bag was the one running it, and Scottish Geeks was in it, and a few other people. And I made some good friendships there. And in fact, recently I spoke to Scottish Geeks. I said, "How's it going?" And he was like, "Oh, dude, I remember you, blah, blah, blah." And it was all lovely. Anyway, to get back to the channel history, because I keep going off in tangents. So I'm rolling away and I'm doing stuff, and I've got, at the time I had a Sony Xperia SP, a white one. I didn't want a white one, but that's what was available and that's what I could afford. Because the white one was slightly cheaper than the black one that I couldn't get because I didn't have it. And I would quite literally set my phone up in front of my telly, where my PlayStation 5's HD camera sits. Or roughly in the same position anyway, it was different telly, but... So I would set it up there, and I would spend several minutes trying to make sure that, one, it would bounce and not fall down, and two, that it was actually pointed at me and it wasn't pointed at the ceiling or pointed at the floor. Because I couldn't see what I was doing because I was using the back camera to get the most amount of pixel, instead of the front-facing camera, which meant I would get the least amount of pixel. And on such a low-powered phone of the period, the videos from then would now look even worse. So I kind of tried to future-proof myself there a little bit without even realising I was doing so. And I did that for ages and ages and ages. And then, luckily, the PS4 came along. And with the PS4, I was able to actually use the camera on board through the Share Factory Studio. Now, in fact, at that point it was just called Share Factory. And I was able to film straight from my PlayStation at myself. And the level set, and it was always in the same place, so I was able to have a continuity of image, which was quite nice. I mean, it was always fairly similar with the phone, but it was never exactly similar. But continuity has always proven to be a bit of a problem for this channel, for reasons I'll get to later. Anyway, so I'm filming with the camera, I've got that up there, and I'm doing the thing, and I'm talking away. Sometimes I was sitting, sometimes I was standing. I've gone through sitting videos, I've gone through standing videos. And as the years have gone on, I've found that I prefer the standing format. I like to be able to move around and express myself, and, you know, if I need to jump with excitement, I can. You know, if I need to spin, I can. It's like, I just feel freer in a standing format. That's not for everybody. A lot of people prefer to sit down, have a boom mic, have the shot cropped and have a script or the rest of it. And I almost never use a script. There'll be a few times where the closest I've gotten to a script is generally having some bullet points on a piece of paper taped to the side of the telly, or taped to my mic stand here. And I'll try to look at them as briefly as possible to say what I'm going to say and do the rest from the noggin. Because I've always liked to try and have as much authenticity as possible. Because generally speaking, a lot of what I come from is from here. Admittedly, sometimes I'll read up on stuff so that when I come to talk to you guys, I'm not talking out a hole in my head. I try to come with facts and logic and a balanced perspective. That's something I've tried to do from the very beginning. In fact, a wee while ago, I did a video where I actually reviewed my first ever video. I hadn't watched it in donkey's years. And I was surprised and pleased to find that basically, although I'm grey as all get out now, I largely hadn't changed. You know, I'm still the me I was then, just a bit older and a bit more experienced with YouTube, and obviously more confident talking to camera. Not like I wasn't afraid of camera, because I'm a massive show off. But yeah, it was kind of nice to see that, like, the Zen bloke of then isn't too far removed from the Zen bloke of now. And I took comfort in that. That was nice to see. That was nice to know. And yeah, so filming with the Sony Xperia SP up on top of the telly, yada yada yada. Then got to filming with PlayStation 4. And I was filming with PlayStation 4, and I was always having to like change the entirety of the lounge that I film in, because I film in my lounge, so I have to build and dismantle my studio every time I make a video or videos. Sometimes I'll batch content. And what I used to have to do back then was, because I didn't want to have the couch and all the rest of it in the background of the video, I wanted to have as clean a background as possible. What I used to have to do was quite literally take a few steps back and hoik the couch up on end and make sure it was secure, because I didn't want it to fall on me while I was recording. And yeah, so I would film with the couch stood there on end, big heavy leather couch with wood supports, sort of like looming at the side of me, like, monolithic couch. And there goes my phone doing things. Anyway, so my couch is up and I'm filming, I'm talking away, and I was using the built-in microphone on the PlayStation 4's camera. I didn't have my ring light. I was relying pretty much on sunlight. I would sometimes turn these lights on, the two ceiling lights, but I didn't have baffles for them yet. I created baffles for my ceiling lights. Hang on, I'll show you. Yeah. So quite literally, you see how the green screen started to interfere there? So this humble piece of paper with a bit of wire attached, I have one of those on each light to diffuse the light, because I haven't the money for diffusion lights and stands and all the rest of it. So I literally had to DIY this. And I've had these for donkeys. So everything is, hang on, made by me. It's all been cobbled together over years. It was like couple of Christmases ago, I finally got a frame for my green screen. Turned round again, you see what I mean? If it's not all set up, it all goes haywire. And it already has gone a bit haywire, so please ignore this fuzz. Dear Lord. Anyway, so, and for years and years, I didn't have a green screen frame. What I had was a long piece of dowling wood that I bought from what you Americans would call hardware store. What we in America, over here we call, like just a DIY shop, like Home Base or B&Q or whatever that you have in your country. And it would literally, there's a door there and there's a door there. One door leads to the kitchen, the other door leads to the stairs. And above each door, there was one of those, you know, those thumbtack things that go into a notice board where you can pull them out in and out easy and stuff. Aye, there was one of those on the top of each door frame, faced down into the door frame, and they would hold back the piece of wood. And the green screen that I'm using basically used to hang the other direction, and it had like, I'd basically bought this material in a haberdashery, which doesn't exist anymore here in Edinburgh, that closed a few years ago. And I basically folded it over at the top, taped it down with a big bit of black duct tape, because I wasn't confident enough in my sewing ability to go for that massive amount of distance and not make a complete mess of it and have it all be crunkled and stuff. So that was the best way I could do to keep it flat. And then before the duct tape was down, I also put down this tape stuff that was Velcro. So it was Velcroed on both sides, and so the Velcro held it, and then the duct tape made sure that the Velcro wouldn't come away, so it was like double secure. Since I got the green screen green screen frame, I then flipped it, because it then meant would effectively have a bigger green screen side to side, and I could finally pull the camera back. Once I was able to pull the camera back, then I became sharper, because it used to be the case, because I would have such a small green screen, effectively side to side, that I really had to zoom the camera in. So I used to look a good bit fuzzier than I do today, which sucked. But needs must as the devil drives, because I always liked the idea of having the green screen, because the wife was never keen with the house being on camera. But it does mean, of course, since I have to set up the studio every single time I shoot a video, it's always going to be a little bit different. The mic is generally here, but sometimes it's here, sometimes it's here, sometimes it's here, sometimes it's here. It's like, but in this general area is where the mic is, so you'll always notice there might be a slight difference in the sound. And because the mic is never always in one place and always turned on and always set up, I always have to check the mic, and there will always be a little difference in audio. Like my ring light here, right now it's bounced on top of the rat cage, because there's a few things down in front of the rat cage where often my tripod for my ring light stands, but it can't always stand there because the house is always in flux, because, you know, there are a number of humans that live here. I am not the only human here. I'm not the only mammal here. Hey boys. Anyway, so I've had this setup, and I've evolved the setup and changed the setup, and over time it's sort of like I've been able to have the camera more advanced, from the PlayStation 4 camera to the PlayStation 5 HD camera, which allowed me to be sharper in HD and be able to pull back and have the frame and have the stick and have this mic stand. I never used to have a mic stand up until just a few months ago. I used to have various things that I would balance the mic upon, and I've been through a number of mics, most of them cheapo mics from like websites like Temu and stuff, and second-hand mics that I got in charity shops. And basically I think about 3 years ago now, my friend Martin, who is one of the Zen fam, he was like, dude, I've got a Blue Yeti mic if you want it. And I was like, yes please. So the Blue Yeti mic that you might have seen me tout in a couple of videos from time to time, that sits here. And I think it was like last year, maybe about a year and a half ago or so, that I finally got this for my Blue Yeti. So, sorry for all the horrible audio there. That actually is a baffle on the microphone itself. It helps clean the sound, helps remove things like plosives and so on and so forth. So it just evens out the sound, and everything I do is to try and make better content. I mean, it's getting harder to make the content better because I've plateaued with the equipment I have, because I am not a rich man. I'm a worker, just like many of you, except I also happen to run a YouTube channel and have done for 13 years. But what's been lovely about being a YouTuber for 13 years is the fact I've met so many awesome people and had some brilliant opportunities. I think the first opportunity ever forwarded to me, and this is a big shout out, is to my friend Dan. Dan, who used to be going by the name of Wingy Gaming, who's had umpteen channels, and currently now is doing a Steam Deck focused channel, doing a lot of like Steam Deck indie games, roguelikes, indie builders, simulators, and he's just a funny and genuine guy. I mean, he really is just a salt of the earth bloke, really good, really just a good geezer. And me and Dan have been mates for a long time, and I used to watch his Wingy Gaming channel, and he had this podcast he used to do with another guy called Cycle Gamer, and they were good together. And he said like one time on him and Cycle, they needed another person. So I put my hand up and go, me sir, me. And they said, I will give you a bash, we'll jump you on, see how it goes. And from the first time I was on, that was it. I was a regular component of that podcast. We ran for ages and ages and ages. It was never the most regular podcast, but whenever it was, we always had fun. We always had a good discussion. I still remember the first show. It was like I was so excited to be there, and he was like, he commented about how much I was such a happy, smiley guy, and then at one point I made Dan laugh quite a lot because we were discussing Colin Moriarty, who was at that point still part of IGN. So that's how far back we're going here. And I basically described him as a knowledgeable knob, and that made him laugh. And he was like, because it was the perfect description because Colin Moriarty is very knowledgeable, has a lot of industry connections, has a deep understanding of the industry and its trends and so on and so forth, but he is a bit of a plonker. And if I was to meet him, Colin Moriarty to his face, I go, dude, I love your content. Yeah, but I do think you can tend to be a bit of a twonk sometimes, pal. But we all can. We can all be a bit of a knobhead. Let's face it. Anyway, so I made him laugh, and I think that's probably one of the things that made the chemistry real between me, Cycle, and Wingy. And we just had good discussions. And from that point, I decided I really loved podcasting. And I've been on a number of podcasts over the years. Some of them one-shots, some of them I was on as a regular, like when Foxy Games UK used to have his Gamer Couch podcast. I was a regular on that. I was on most of them. I couldn't be on all of them just because work commitments and stuff, but I was on pretty much, I'd say, about 95% of the Gamer Couch podcast. Although towards the end of the run, I actually ducked out because I couldn't keep up with the audio requirements of the podcast. As the podcast grew in complexity and numbers, it was needed to be the case that a participation required a better quality of audio than what I was able to provide. And I couldn't provide it, so I did the graceful thing and I left before I was asked to leave, as I felt I probably might be about to be. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm overthinking it. Foxy, if you're seeing this and that wasn't the case, then please feel free to correct me, because I know you do still sometimes watch me. But I think one of the funnest podcasts I was ever in wasn't even really a gaming podcast. It was actually an internet culture podcast. It was cultural events at the period, and this was during COVID, called the Fought Chronicles, and it was all Scottish. So it was basically, there was like anywhere between 6 to like 9 of us Scottish content creators. A couple of us were Twitchers, a couple of us were just vloggers, the rest of us were like YouTubers, and I think one guy was just like, I think the host, he just liked doing stuff on podcasts. I don't think he did much else. And in fact, he even brought me onto his other podcast to do an interview just about me, which was quite lovely. It was a good interview, and I had a lot of fun. But basically, the Fought Chronicles, we went along for ages, and we just had a good laugh. And like Yangy Young was part of it. If a lot of you in Scotland, I know him. He's a good guy. He's a good creator. And we just brought the chat, and we brought the fun, and all throughout the years, I was like learning more about YouTube, more about how to be on it. Where I developed like calling you guys the Zen fam, because I learned that like trying to community is key. So I wanted to create community, and so by having a community, I realized I needed to name the community. Hence, calling you guys the Zen fam, your family. It's that simple. The hashtag support Scottish YouTubers, that was right from the first video. I decided at the first video that like I needed to have some sort of way of closing the video, so that developed. And then over time, that closing phrase, got standardized and got added to with the hashtag support Scottish YouTubers, which when I first saying that was just a cool sort of thing to say. I thought it would be a way of like getting people to think about Scottish gaming content creators, and like me in particular, and sort of like maybe by that hashtag being used and being in the video description, it was sort of like it would get its own sort of level of searchability. And then I decided a number of years ago to take that hashtag and actually do something with it. And I started the hashtag support Scottish YouTubers series, which has been running for a good number of years now, where I quite literally, every once in a while, scour the internet and I go looking for new gaming channels from Scotland that are under 1,000 subscribers, and I spotlight them as a Scottish gaming YouTuber who is over 1,000 subscribers. It seemed like the nice thing to do because other people had helped me in the past, and I thought, well, you know, push it forward. Others helped me, I should help others. Community, guys, community. And there's been about, I think it's like 21 or so episodes of hashtag support Scottish YouTubers now. Admittedly, a good number of those channels have since gone away, but a number of those channels are still here. The aforementioned Gib84, he's that. Scottish Man Cave, Generation Pixel, Retro Video Game Virus. I think he still wants to make content, but he's just been away for a little bit. Tech Tucker. In fact, Tech Tucker, I met him twice. I met him at Glasgow Gamescom in 2023, and I met him, I think it was either the same year or the next year, when I was at, actually it was the same year when I went to my first ever Edinburgh Glasgow Gaming and Anime Convention. And he was there, like me, on Press Pass covering the event. Actually, I should say this while I'm about it, before I forget and I don't have another space to say this. If you are looking forward to me making another video from the Edinburgh Gaming and Anime Convention, I have had word personally from Anime League, the company that runs those events, that unfortunately this year there will not be an Edinburgh version because they couldn't find a suitable venue. They didn't want to use the venue that they used last year, but I can understand that because it was all like split into bits and stuff. But I mean, it was a cracking convention. The vibe was excellent. So fingers crossed that for 2027 there will be an Edinburgh convention, and when there is, I of course will put in my press pass and I will cover it because it was a brilliant convention. However, there will be one for Glasgow for 26, and I do intend to go to that and cover it for you guys, because every year the conventions does gotten better and it's gotten more hype and it's gotten more popular. Although I do think eventually they're going to have to move out of the DoubleTree and go to somewhere bigger, because the convention is just getting so big. It's crazy big these days, and eventually they're going to run out of space. Anyway, where was I? So I've done all these podcasts and I've done interviews and I've done so many collaborations. I've done collaborations with like Mike's Gaming Gala. I've done collaborations with Upper Nimbus and all kinds of people, and they've all been fun. I've done stuff with Generation Pixel. I've gotten shout outs all over the place from different channels and different people. I'd like to think I'm quite friendly with OG Duffy. I've even other YouTubers I've met in the flesh, like earlier this year I got to actually hang out with Scottish Man Cave, who's a lovely bloke and taller than I thought. But no, he's just a cracking guy. The guy you see on camera, yeah, he's the same guy, but in person, I actually think he comes alive a bit more. I think it's just, because it's person to person. It's just like, but I mean, he is just a genuine dude. He really is. So if you're always wanting somebody for good live stream gameplay, you can't go wrong with that. Of course, if there's one tuber I know really well, is my mate Dave, the Grey Wolf. And I've watched his channel grow and become just something else. The dude has worked hard, and he's a good mate. We've kent each other for like 1 billion years, since like the mid-90s in real life. And it's only in the last sort of 2-3 years that he's been a YouTuber, and the guy's done really, really well. And he is also, one of the hashtag Scottish YouTubers alum. What else? Of course, it's not always been an easy road. There have been people I've had troubles with. I'll not relitigate those occasions because I don't do negativity. Those things happened, they're in the past, I no longer need to consider them. The only thing I really consider is the future. Yeah? What have I done? How can I do it better? Who can I hopefully work with? And of course, I keep on pushing, 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 trying to grow this channel, trying to make it better. Now, yes, I know that as a content creator, and some of you two are content creators, you know that like subscriber count is not the be all and end all. Where it really comes down is view duration and viewer retention. So keeping people watching the content and keeping people watching the content for as long as possible. And if they can watch more than one video, all the better. But on that hand, of course, the vanity metric of getting up to like 1.5 is something I do try to go for, and it's something I push for, where I continually promote the channel, continually try to do collaborations and have mentions and be on podcasts and yada yada yada. So it's always a thing, and recently I did finally hit 1300, but I dropped down a little bit because basically YouTube knackered a few dead accounts, but that doesn't matter. I mean, yes, it sucked, but it technically doesn't matter. What matters is you guys. What matters is that I have fun doing this. And I mean, I never had the expectation that when I started this YouTube channel that I would be an all-powerful, rich and famous YouTuber. At best, my highest dream, my biggest sort of hope. Do you know what it was? And I've said this to a couple of people before. I might have even said it on this channel. Was that I might get slightly famous enough to be on Nevermind the Buzzcocks and get to sit beside Bill Bailey and play the intros round. That was my biggest aspiration. to play a music quiz on the BBC with somebody I like in stand-up comedy. That was my biggest ambition. Not like Lamborghinis and, being like, as then did not exist, Mr. Beast. No, I wanted to play a game with somebody I thought was cool and be on telly and do a round of a game show that I really just liked a lot. God, Dan said the other day in one of his videos that like I'm like the most wholesome guy on YouTube. Maybe he's right. Sorry, I keep going off of these tangents, but that's one of the things I like to do on YouTube. So I'm not about the scripts. I'm not about like putting up a fake persona. You get me. Admittedly, I'm obviously a slightly more bigged up because I'm on camera. This is a performance space, but I like to try and just come at this. I'm not like I'm not writing scripts into 3 o'clock in the morning and. But I do put work in here. I mean, I've got better and better at thumbnail creation. Although I have to admit, I will put my hand up and admit it, that like some of my thumbnails in the last sort of year and a half have not been as good as they could be, and I do need to work on that. But basically, it's more about getting my muse to talk to me, and because some of my topics are so slight or off the beaten track, it's not always gonna pan out that way that I can actually have a thumbnail that truly communicates the message of what the video is about, because it's such a twisted concept and not what everybody else normally talks about on YouTube. But I think you guys out there, the real hardcore, the ones that are in the comments most often, or at least the ones who are always watching, there's always a core amount of views I get. Even when the views are low, there's always a core amount that get this and understand that I just love video games and I love talking about video games and I know a lot and I care. And that's really why I started this channel. I didn't start this channel for ego whatever. In fact, if anything, it means I get less time to play the video games I love, because this malarkey takes time to do. Never mind the actual shooting of the video, but the editing of the video, the producing of the video, the promotion of the video, the making of the thumbnails, the setting up of the green screen, and all the rest of it, and parsing out time in the week, and then looking after the video and watching its analytics. And being a YouTuber, as other YouTubers in the comments will probably tell you if you ask them, this is not an easy gig. And it doesn't pay me. Yes, I'm over 1,000 subscribers, but I have not applied for a YouTube partnership for the simple reason I don't want to push adverts on you guys. Now, yes, there is a Patreon account connected to this YouTube channel. Yes, it is active, but the only reason it's there is so that nobody else can take the name Zenbloke and put it on Patreon. That's the only reason it's there. Now, if somebody's to come along and put a large amount of money into the Patreon, I wouldn't say no. But I've never, much like Gib84 said the other day when he was doing this similar video, that the idea of like having content set aside just for people who've paid money feels like you're disrespecting the audience that can't afford to pay up, you know, like once a week or once a month or whatever the rate is, for however much you've asked them from. Even if it's £1 a month. The fact that you're segregating your audience and that you're saying, not you, I don't know if I can get down with that concept. Maybe someday I might have like AdSense enabled and all the rest of it, but I think I would have to be a lot bigger of a channel, like at least 2K before I would even think about that, because then I would obviously have a bit more expenses and I would be trying to produce more content, and maybe someday it might turn out that I could end up being an actual proper full-time YouTuber, but not today, baby. I'm still working my job. I'm still travelling an hour 40 to where I work on 2 buses, doing an 8-hour shift, travelling an hour 40 back on 2 buses, getting home, making my work's dinner for the next shift, watching a few videos, maybe getting a bit of gameplay before I go to bed, get up, get my kid out to school, go back to bed for a bit, get up again, get myself ready for work, and shoot myself over to work. Rinse, repeat. And then I get days off like this where I get to make videos and catch up with housework and maybe get a bit of gaming in and try and live life like the rest of yous, you know. It's kind of like that that song, you know, Living for the Weekend. It feels like that. Except I don't have what you would call general weekends, because although I work 5 days a week, I never get the same days off at a time. It's always jumbled around, which is why there's never been a schedule to this channel. There used to be a schedule to when I used to Twitch stream, but that's when I was working at Costa for 13.5 years, and I was able to basically have it so that I was off every Thursday. So every Thursday, 9 o'clock, boom, the stream would be there. And I loved that. Although I would like to stream here. I've tried streaming here a few times and I've had some fun doing it. But I can't get the stream to go the way I want it to, because for some reason, whether it be Twitch or YouTube, in the last year and a half when I've tried to do it, the green screen doesn't want to cooperate with the streaming. It's sort of like it half is half there, half not, and it's all a big fuzzy mess. And I honestly can't understand why it is that when I stream with the same lighting setup, the same mic setup, that like I can't get the green screen to work. I've tried everything. I've asked other tech-minded YouTubers who know more about this stuff who have never answered me. So until I can figure that out, I don't really tend to stream as much because I don't have a schedule that I can follow. I would like to have a schedule. I think that's important. Just so you know, hey, this is the day when Zembloke streams for those people that want to see me stream. They know that they can see it at this time, they can block time out and kick back, get some snacks, and join me in whatever game I'm playing. I might probably even go back into having an online game that I would be playing only for that. Like I would probably go back to the Division 2 or something, or maybe even Grand Theft Auto 5. I might go back into the online mode for that and play that online. Or something else, who knows. Or maybe play one game and then once that game's completed, play the next game and have a game that's just for the stream and another game that's just for me. Who knows? But, I mean, that's all up in the air. The fact of the matter is, as it stands currently, I don't have a schedule that I can keep to keep a stream viable. And for some reason, I can't seem to make it be the case that my green screen wants to play ball when I stream. And admittedly, the Grey Wolf, who streaming is his deal, said, "Zen mate, just play. You don't have to be on camera. You can be a faceless channel for that." But that annoys me, and it also annoys me that, like, for streams, I can't put in my intro sequence, and because I'm relying purely on my PS5, I don't have any other stuff. I can't do the stuff that other streamers do, where they have like interstitial cards, and you know they're able to have good chat bots and stuff. Because generally speaking, what I end up doing is I have my phone or my tablet at the side of me, and I'm trying to read the comments. So then I'm looking away from the screen, I'm reading the comments, and going back to the screen, and that's disjointed, and it doesn't feel right, and it feels amateur hour. And although I'm not, you know, a proper full-time streamer or proper full-time YouTuber, I do like to do things properly. Even though I'm a fruitcake, I like to do things properly. And it feels like when I'm doing streams like that, that I'm not providing the best service I can do for you guys. And that doesn't sit well with me. I only ever want to do the good stuff. So then you're probably asking, so then what's the future of the Zembloke channel? The future of the Zembloke channel, as I see it currently, is to just try and keep making the best content I can, grow the channel as best I can, and you know, I just keep pushing and keep trying to come up with good ideas and do more collaborations. Hopefully a new podcast will come along at some point that I can be a regular part of again. There hasn't been another podcast in so very long, but I do love doing them. I do want to do more conventions. I was going to go down to this convention that was going to happen a couple of months ago, but the convention actually dissolved itself. And I did raise some money, which is sitting, waiting for a convention. And I was going to go to EGX, but that conflicted with work and all the rest of it, so I was unable to go to EGX in London. And I had thought about going to the other EGX that I believe is in like Newcastle, I think it was. It was either Newcastle or Birmingham. But that ended up not being viable either, because it was just all colliding with other stuff. So that money is going to be on the back burner. It's held away, and the next time there's another EGX, like in 26, that's what I'll probably use it then, hopefully. As long as that also doesn't collide with other things. So I do want to do more convention videos, because you guys really seem to respond to the convention videos, and I love doing them. Because I love getting out and about. Like the last video when I was in front of that Odeon, it was nice being outside of the studio. I do love doing location shoots, but I don't get to do them very often because, you know, when was the last time there was a midnight launch? And Vox Pops are hard because not many people want to talk, and finding gamers in the wild is hard. I mean, yeah, okay. At last year's Edinburgh convention, I did that Vox Pops with public about the oncoming Switch 2 and what people's thoughts on it were. And that was brilliant. I loved doing that. But standing outside a game store and getting gamers to talk to you is not an easy thing. I've tried it a few times and it's really, really hard to get people to actually talk to you because they're all, oh, camera, ah. And then, of course, you've always got the thing of like people in the background and people, and then security giving you side eye, and it's a thing. It really is. I mean, I push through and I make the content, and generally it turns out quite good. But there's always challenges. There's always some new hump in the road. But I do love doing content with you lot. I would love, 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 love to do more collaborations and do more VR responses. I love to do a VR response. I'm gonna maybe try and do a couple more gaming challenges if I can think of good concepts for gaming challenges to do. I did recently do a gamer challenge, but then I recently found out from discussion with other YouTubers that apparently the game I chose is no longer available for download. So I kind of shot that challenge in the foot without knowing. If I'd known at the chat that the game was no longer available for download, I wouldn't have set that as the game for the challenge. But the only reason I set the one for the challenge that I did is because it was available for free, and I didn't want to be the cost of people having to spend money that they can't afford. That didn't feel right. But it looks like if I'm going to do that in the future, I'm just going to have to hope that whatever game I pick, they either have, or it's not going to be too expensive for them to pick up, or they'll be able to have the license from a previous pickup from like PlayStation Plus or Xbox Game Pass or whatever. Uh, so growth, 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 push, 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 develop, 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 get better at editing, get better at using the software, get better at social media integration. Although I like to think on all those things, I'm pretty much at the top of my game for what I can do currently. So I suppose all I can really hope for is to, at some point, have it where the setup is just seamless. Where like I can manage to have it always be in such a way where like there's never any differences, never any change in the light, where the green screen works 100% of the time. One of these days I think I might try and actually get a new green screen with a thicker fabric, because this does tend to waver. I mean, watch when I push it. You can see how like my shadows on it and stuff. So I think it's a bit reflective. It needs to have a more of a matte texture. So a more matte texture, thicker, heavier fabric, so it hangs better, so it's flatter. Because it does sort of wave and smoosh about whenever I move. If I create too much wind with my body movements. Probably a bit more integration with other editing software. I mean, like, there's times I've done videos on my phone, and there's stuff that I can do on my phone that I can't do in Share Factory Studio, but there's stuff I can do in Share Factory Studio that I can't do with my phone. And sometimes the answer to that is to actually download this, is to make the video here in Share Factory Studio, then put it on YouTube, but don't launch it, and then copy that launched video onto my phone and take that video from my downloads on my phone and put it into the YouTube Creator Studio app and then fiddle with it there. But then that more than doubles the time, because of moving of the files, recreating the things, and I could possibly do cleaner audio as long as I'm prepared to use the music from the phone, from the YouTube music library rather than the music that I've got. Although I could probably get music on the phone, but then that eats more phone space. It's tricky. I mean, obviously I think I need to upgrade my phone, because my old Sony Xperia 1 Mark II is getting pretty old, and it's getting a bit slow, but it's money. I mean, I would love to get a Sony Xperia 1 Mark VI. Yes, I know the Mark 7 is available, but I think the Mark 6 is actually better for what I need, for my needs as a content creator. It's got that extended screen ratio that I'm used to. and it's got that air cooling chamber for the processor. It's still running a 4K HDR screen. This Mark 7 doesn't have that, and it doesn't have the air cooling chamber as far as I'm aware. But that's all techie stuff. The main thing is I want to stay here on YouTube, I want to keep on making content and have you guys watch it, and have you guys interact with it. Because if there's one thing you'll have noticed, that whenever you guys make a comment, what happens? I answer. And I pride myself on that I always answer what you guys say to me. Even when some people are trying to be mean, which happens very, very few and far between. I've probably had maybe a dozen negative comments in my 13 years on YouTube. Maybe a dozen, possibly less. Probably less even. So I like to think that people respond well to what I do. And when they respond to me, I respond right back. Because I personally see that as not so much an obligation, but it's just the right thing to do. If someone's taken the time out of their day to, one, watch my content and then respond to it, then I think it's only fitting that I respond to them. It's just courteous. It's just the right thing to do. Because I may be a fruitcake, but I'm a polite fruitcake. I'm too principled for my own good sometimes. Anyway, if you have any further questions about my experience as a YouTuber, and you want to know anything more about being a YouTuber, if you're thinking about being one yourself, then obviously please feel free to drop into that comment section and, you know, pick my brains. It's all good. It's all good. Oh, one last thing to mention. With the anime convention, there's hopefully something clever coming from me if I can make it happen as regards Glasgow Gaming and Anime Convention 2026. It's not set yet, but if it is, then it's going to make a really, really cool thing for the channel if I can get it to happen. I know I've left the mystery hat sort of like at the end there, but I can't say more than that because one, I don't want to jinx it, and two, I don't want to speak something that isn't true yet. Because I've never lied to you guys. I mean, you see that from my gameplay footage. You've seen me over the years when got my gameplay here in the background. You've seen me die. You've seen me screw up. Because I don't hide what kind of a gamer I am. I know I'm 51. I know that, like, I don't have the reflexes I once had. And I know sometimes I can't figure out a puzzle for ages and ages and ages. So, I'm honest with that. I'll show you what kind of a gamer I am. I'm not going to edit my gameplay and make me look amazing, because I'm not. I'm decent, but I'm not amazing. Anyway, I think I've rattled on for better part of an hour, so I probably best shut my hole and ship on out. Well, you know the drill, guys. Hashtag support Scottish YouTubers. And of course, as always, nae bother.